This time by Webb back to third place. Michael Gobin in fourth, the number 1 car. Garnhart a full straightaway lead in that number 3 ride. He has built a Waffle House. The rest of the field is smothered and covered as Bryce Garnhart rolls her into turn 3, and out of 4, he'll get the white flag. This time by Evan Miller back in second place. Gary Webb third. 1 lap left. Michael Gobin fourth. That's your top 4 qualifiers. In number 3 out of 4. Picking up the Sears Manufacturing checkered flag, Bryce Garnhart. Evan Miller comes home second. Gary Webb third in the number W. And Michael Gobin rounds out the top 4 in. All right, it's time to drop the hammer on another episode of True Grit, Pat. We have got a show for the fans tonight.
You know, I look forward to having this show all the time. You know, we don't get to have Mr. Webb on very often. The Webbs, Mr. Webb plural. But man, this is really cool. So
Webb brothers
welcome
are here.
to the show.
Great, thanks
Gary.
for having us.
And
Thanks for coming out, Robert. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thanks for coming.
Do you have any national news for us tonight, Pat? First, I'm going to cover a couple of ads here real quick. Show brought to you by Relk Concrete Construction, one of your sponsors, Gary.
Awesome.
Yes.
2742 North Fairmont Street, Davenport, Iowa. Give Scotty a call at 391-3473. Hey, if you're looking for a driveway, a patio, new steps in front of the house, Scotty can do it all, but he's busy patching all those water main breaks all the time.
Yes, and you know what? There's nobody better in the business. Give him a call. It's ROEHLK, Scotty Relk Construction.
And then Done Right TV, our studio located right in Done Right TV, 1414 West Locust Street in Davenport, Iowa. We are a media broadcasting company, and we do live production. We also have a large screen TV to rent out. And Pat, when we say large,
when you say large, that does not do this thing justice.
Yeah,
it is. They call it the next level. This thing, if you think movie screen, that's what this thing is like. It's so huge. It's unbelievable. Also, it's on a trailer, and it can be towed and presented at your event. So it is available for rentals. It would be fantastic for a birthday party, a gender reveal party, graduation, you name it. Give Kelly a call and check out the rental prices. It is really, really cool.
What do we have happening on the national scene this past week?
Well, the World of Outlaws are off.
Okay.
Because they don't want to conflict with the Dirt Car Hell Tour. And just to refresh everybody's memory, the Dirt Car Hell Tour went to a little bit different format. It was either last year or the year before, because they didn't have guys before that they had an entire tour point fund, and they had people that couldn't make all 5 weeks. So they broke it down. They actually have a $10,000 to win weekly point champion each and every single week. So they run four or five races each of 5 consecutive weeks. Last week they kicked it off, and it was the Tyler Turbo Herb Show.
Man,
this kid just absolutely took it to him. He won actually all 3 races. Mother Nature won the other 2. Sunday night in Sycamore got rained out. They're going to redo that in July. But Turbo won every single one of them. He was a man on a mission. Dennis Erb Jr. kept in honest at Falls, but it was really, really good racing. On the Lucas Oil Tour, they were out. They were down in Smoky Mountain Speedway in Tennessee. Ricky Thornton Jr. won on Friday night. One of the things that I wanted to highlight, I'm glad to see this. It's taken him a little while to get accustomed to the car, but Tim McCready showed some significant speed in the Rocket House car.
Yeah.
He's been a little off since he's jumped into that seat, but I tell you what, he was on fire. Gave Archie J a run for the money on Friday night. He came home second. Ryan Gustin was third. Then Saturday, Brandon Overton was a man on a mission. 60 laps. The only person that really gave him a run for the money was RTJ. RTJ came home second.
All right.
Really good show. This week, tomorrow night, that Hell Tour that I just spoke of is right down the street here in Davenport. Should be a phenomenal show. Warm, yes, but I tell you what, you're not going to get a better bang for your buck. Come check it out right down the street, Davenport Speedway. The late models, they run Wednesday at Quincy, Thursday, one of my favorite tracks, Canton, Illinois, Spoon River Speedway, Brownsburg, Illinois, Friday, Peevely, Missouri, another one of my favorite tracks on Saturday, and then Lincoln, Illinois on Sunday.
All right. Hey, so 5 of the Davenport winners account for half of the Dirt Car Summer National Tour Championships. Billy Moyer has 6 titles. Scott Bloomquist has 3. Shannon Babb has won 4 championships, and Bobby Pierce 5. Ashton Winger of Sonoya, Georgia, is a defending tour champion.
How about that?
So the Dirt Car Summer Nationals have been around since 1986. The tour consists of 28 events covering 9 states. We're going to have them right over at Davenport Speedway. Come on out. We'd love to have you. We're also going to be running sport mods and street stocks. The pit gate opens at 1 p.m. Grandstand opens at 4 p.m. Hot laps are at 6:30 with racing to follow. Now, grandstand tickets for Tuesday's race are going to be $30 for adults and children. Children age 5 to 10 are going to be $15. Pit passes are $40 for adults, and for children are $20.
And I did talk to Tyler Erb is going to be there, obviously. I did talk to Bobby Pierce. We had hoped to have him on the show tonight. He's not going to be in town until tomorrow for the race, so I know he's going to be here. And also Chris Simpson posted that he's going to be here. So it's not going to be a bunch of just very fast cars and people that you didn't necessarily hear of before. They're going to be some of the heavy hitters. They're going to be in town for $30. You're not going to find a better bang for your buck than tomorrow night at Davenport.
All right, so let's see picture number 67, Sonny. We'll pop that up there. We got a couple of good-looking guys that are going to be up on the screen. Now, the people out in TV land, they can see those. How do you like that? You guys have been together a lot of years. I hear people say to me, they'll go, oh, I haven't talked to my brother in 3 weeks or 2 years. Or, well, my brother Sam and I, we married sisters, and we hang. And Gary, as many years as I've been around the racetrack, I see you and Robert. When did it all start? You talked at one time about you guys going on vacations and you and Robert going to junkyards. That was back when we used to use the parts.
We'd be with our family, and that's what we liked race cars so much. That's where we would look for them on the trip.
Yeah,
gas stations, junkyards. That's where the stock cars were.
You know, when we talk about how racing's changed and how technology's got so involved on it, I mean, back then, man, we'd pull 9-inch Ford rear ends out of cars. We actually ran used brake shoes. I had a sponsor that was a junkyard. They had a pile of race motor or just regular motors, and I'd go through that pile shoving Hemis out of the way because I wanted those 010 Chevy blocks. Yeah. So that was, something we did too, and that's the way it was back then. Now, Sonny, let's pop up picture number 21. And so, Gary, back in the day, tell us what year you started racing. When did you guys start going to the racetrack?
Yeah, right there.
That's a good-looking car.
I'll be darned. My signature's still about the same.
Yeah. How do you like
Yes, it
that?
is.
We're going to check that out.
That was the first car. That was a late model that I bought that ran up at Freeport.
Okay.
And we got it home and couldn't even get the engine in it.
Are you kidding me?
No, the frame was bent. And my friend Ken Arthur came over. And
Kenny Arthur,
He had a porta-power, and we porta-powered that thing apart. Back then, we didn't know what camber and caster was. We put our best tire on the right rear. It might have been 3 inches smaller than the left rear. But then we just drove them.
Yeah.
We just drove them.
And the number 56, where did you guys come up with the 56 at?
Well, I always wanted to be number 5, and then Dick Unzel was number 5.
I remember that.
So
Really?
Then I had a little girl born on the 6th day of April, and she weighed 6 pounds, 6 ounces. So I thought, well, if I make it number 6, that's not fair to Brian. So then I made it 5 and 6. So kind of a...
So Jenna got part of it, and that was a 56. She was a 6.
No, her name was Carrie Ann.
Oh, Carrie Ann, okay.
Brian and Carrie Ann.
Right, okay.
And that's how the number came about.
Ain't that crazy?
That is very cool.
Yeah,
and there weren't many 56s for the longest time, so that worked out real well.
So we're going to look at, let's see, picture number 28. You on the racetrack, and, again, a good-looking car. How did we come up with a bronze color? Is that like a 70 or a 64 Nova, or what is
Well,
that?
I think it was a 57 Chevy bronze.
Okay.
They had that 57 Chevy. They had bronze and a cream color.
Yeah.
And I like that color. Robert and I built that. It had a 57 Chevy frame because that was popular back then. And you couldn't get any information out of anybody. So Ronnie Whedon said, you want to take this spring that you get at Davenport Spring and cut it off at a certain height with a torch. So I put one in both sides, and
there were no spring smashers back then, Gary.
There weren't even scales, And that was made out of black pipe. We built it in the house that I rented from my grandmother down on West 4th Street.
Yeah.
And I would have to run an 85-foot drop cord to run my Lincoln Buzz box through the bedroom window so we could plug the 220 into the electric range.
Oh, my God.
That
is a good story.
I love it.
Picture number 27. Now, this car, I remember, Gary, 69 Chevelle, another beautiful car. It looked about like the same color of the last one we were looking at. Tires back then. Now, them wheels, if you lifted a wheel and a tire off your hauler, you had to be a man.
Oh, and we would even take half-inch rebar, and I worked at Ross and Perina, so I had access to a roller. I was in the maintenance department, and I would roll a half-inch ring and weld it to the wheel so when you hit, it didn't damage the wheel so much. I'll tell you a quick story about that.
Let's hear it.
I was recently divorced, so I lived in an apartment over on Jebbins.
Yeah.
And I would come home from Macokota, and I'd park on Jebbins. And this lady comes out one morning. She said, "You get that rolling junkyard out of here." And I thought, well, that is a pretty good terminology.
Yeah. Let's look at picture number 5, Sonny. This one again, I believe this one. Oh, hey, we are going to go to picture 18. We'll get around to Mike Murphy. Picture number 18. Same
That's
car.
that same car.
Yes.
And is that at East Moline Speedway,
Yes.
Gary?
Yeah,
That
because
is.
that'd be going right up onto the track back then. I was ahead of time. That's where NASCAR puts their numbers now.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, they probably got the idea from you. That
Yeah.
thing looks good. All right, so let's flip to picture number 40. Yeah, that's you down in Victory Lane picking up another checkered flag. Now, Gary, who was the flagman back then? Do you remember
That's
that?
Bumps Willard. Jake,
Is that Jake's dad?
That's Jake Willard's father, Bumps.
Yeah.
And the trophy girl was Stan Woody, another racer's wife. That's the first trophy I ever won. So
Okay.
that was in 1972. That was season championship at Tipton. And a fella from Waterloo, Cedar Falls,
Yeah.
he said, "I'll give you $1,000 for that trophy." I said, "No, that's." I said, "Well, I still had it,
You still had it.
but I gave it to him." I said, "If you'll take care of it," he
Yeah.
said, "Oh, it'll always be yours." But it's amazing that I took a pickup or two loads to this landfill.
Yeah.
What do you do with them after a while?
What are you going to do with them?
Yeah,
Oh,
but I
wow.
always had that one, and now he's refurbished it. And
How
I
do you
thought,
like that?
I wasn't about to sell it, but I would give it to a guy that would take care of it.
Man,
very
that
cool.
is great. Let's look at picture number 66. Now that one, Gary, we see the checkered flag's not a checkered flag. That is an official shirt.
Yeah.
Can you tell us why you didn't have the checkered flag that night?
That's at Macokota,
All right.
and I can't remember his first name, but it was one of the Christiansens.
Okay.
They ran the M&M ambulance service and stuff, and he was the starter at Macokota,
All right.
and he forgot his flags, so he took off his shirt, and that was the checkered flag.
That was it.
That's it.
Oh, my
love
God.
it.
That
Love
is
it.
a good picture.
Oh, I love it.
Look, we ran windshields back then.
Yeah.
No full face helmet.
Ain't that
The
crazy?
seats were horrible back then.
Oh, my God.
They were dangerous. I did have a shoulder belt. I was pretty big time then.
Yeah.
No driver's suit, just white pants and a shirt.
You know, and I remember when I started racing, that was one of the rules, Robert. You had to have white pants.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, we're going to go in there. We're going to get all greasy and dirty, but you had to have white pants on. And we didn't have no fire suits. We didn't have racing gloves back then.
No.
There was no racing gloves. And, Gary, you talked one time about, you know, when you were running the big shows prior to wearing racing gloves, I mean, you get rocks in your hands, you'd get lacerations, and all of that.
Because, well, back then we got rid of the windshields, and you see the steering wheels exposed. They were not aerodynamic. And at the end of the race, from the rocks lacerating my knuckles, and then the blood would actually dry, my fingers would be stuck together.
Wow. Are you kidding
It sounds
me?
pretty primitive, but that's just how it was.
Yeah,
and
just
again,
how
you
it
can
was.
see why the steering wheel's right there.
It's right there.
Yeah.
My gosh, you know, times have changed. And those helmets, you know, the old open face, it looks like something Dale Earnhardt Sr. was wearing back in the day.
Right.
And they just didn't have a lot of protection to them.
I don't know how we kept the dirt out of our eyes, other than we did have windshields.
Hey, the other red car, you just had a person walk into the studio, and you autographed his car before we got things rolling. Let's go to picture number 29. Now, this car, when I walked into Tri-City Buggy, and I seen that car, Gary, it was like a spaceship had landed in there. It was so different than anything anyone was running then. And do you remember what the weight of that car was?
They were around 1,900 pounds. It had a prototype small block Chevy in it, but it had a sprint car rear end, and I had to build the bird cages because a sprint car's got a live rear axle.
Right.
And then it had fiberglass leaf springs.
Oh.
And then it had a fiberglass lift arm, and then on the front there were no coilovers or anything, or it had a transverse fiberglass a fiberglass leaf that went side to side with rods that went down to the lower control arm.
Okay.
And like I said, I'm sure they were hard to drive.
Now, Gary, I remember, now didn't that car, they were trying to save weight. They even put like plastic brake line on that car. Do I remember that?
It was no weight rule, so it was a phenomenon. And it was a wedge. You can see all the Lexan on the back and stuff.
Yeah.
And actually, that was the serial number. That's how it ended.
555, 555th car built.
That Gary Oliver put out.
All right, I got a picture from down in Florida at Speed Weeks, number 30. And so I guess my next question is going to be, if you go down with 555,
there was
who
another
the heck
one there.
Showed up with a 555?
There was another one there. Isn't that unbelievable?
I mean, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised at that.
Now, Jay Garvey, he says, wish I could have followed you to the landfill. That would have been a sweet load of trophies. And Brian Brunsheen, he said, heard a story once that Gary climbed out of a bad wreck and told someone he was going to race for the rest of his life or something like that. That could have been that wreck we were talking about a little while ago. Let's take a look, Sonny, at picture number 55. You can tell us a little bit about this, Gary. And I've got different.
Oh, wow.
You can pop up 56. I mean,
Santa Fe.
Yeah. There were so many cars in that pile. Bob, tell me, you said a while ago that there was just a cloud of dust. It was a dusty track that night.
Yeah.
And
well, a guy went down into the infield and
kicked all the dust up.
Sure.
And you said you'd seen cars driving into the dust, but they weren't coming out?
Oh. None of them.
Now, Gary, what did that feel like driving into that mess?
Well, I vividly remember hearing all my vertebrae just crunch.
Man.
I would imagine my head went as far as it was possible with the weight of that helmet. I went into that dust with no clue.
Yeah.
That's you can see the Peoria truck wrecking.
Yeah.
Right between those two men, the man in the
Right.
black shirt and that. And there was a car underneath me, Tom Reentz.
49.
It was horrible.
Let's put up picture number 60. I think I got a shot of a different angle there. There's Tom Rentz sitting there. And, Gary, that's your car right on the other side of the 49.
That's 3 levels high, too.
Jeepers.
And those of you guys that aren't familiar, Santa Fe was just right outside of the city of Chicago. Long straightaways and super tight corners. It was also really, really narrow track, too.
I enjoyed it. When I look at instead of looking at the cars, I was just looking at the corner.
Yeah.
That was so fun. We would go up there. We'd get there at 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and about noon we would time trial, and it was just we'd run 100 laps and then stop for 8 minutes, run another 100 laps. It was really something to look forward to.
Let's see. Jeff Hollowell says that he thought it was Little John Provenzano that caused the dust. They then changed the transmission and may have went on to win that day. Is that correct? Are you kidding me?
And he really wasn't a Chicago resident. He was from Huntley. It's a suburb around there.
Okay.
But he had his own salvage yard, Kittyland Graveyard or whatever they called it. But I would consider Little John one of the clan up there, and they had to take him out in the ambulance, so they wanted to kill him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a harsh term.
Now, Gary, you never got that mad. You wouldn't get that that angry or anything.
I wouldn't have mind being one in the ambulance because he got the $12,000. That was a lot of money back then.
Oh my gosh! Sure. You know, when we talk about it, people take for granted. You know, they've got Garmin's in their cars, and today they got the GPS on their phones. We had a National Speed Sport Directory, is what we carried, Dan and I, and you'd call tracks. You'd stop and find a pay phone. You'd call if somebody's rained out.
Yeah.
You're calling other tracks that are nearby.
And it'd be busy, and you'd go a little bit and try again. And this is at payphones.
Payphones, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Now, Gary, somebody told me one time that they had crewed with you for a while and that they ate a lot of cheese sandwiches. Did you have cheese sandwiches that you ate in the car?
We probably had peanut butter and jelly or
peanut
cheese
butter and jelly. Okay, I like that better.
Good road food right there.
Yeah.
Picture number 59. That's one they've already got, a couple of wreckers out there starting to. Well, now who is the 77 car, Gary?
I know, but right now I can't think of it. He was a local from up there.
Okay. And then the last one we want to look at in that event was the number picture 57. And that one, you told me a funny story. The car you drove into that pile you sold it.
It was already sold to Dick Plug and a couple of investors that he had.
And he wasn't with you that day.
And this is the end of the year. This is Santa Fe's like
the big race.
Deal. So this is kind of handy to be able to sell your car to get regrouped for the next year.
Yeah.
So on the way home, I thought, look at it. It's pretty bad. And I got it home and made sure I did. And again, you had to wait for the Hawkeye Racing News or something.
Yeah.
Dick Plug had no idea that car was in a bad wreck. Now you'd know it right before the dust settled.
Yeah. Did you hire it over at Robert's house, or where'd you ditch it?
I took it to wherever I was, probably the house on Denison where we raced out of, and just repaired it. And then they bought it and did real well with it out at Hawkeye Raceway.
He did. Yeah.
It was
let's
a master's built.
We got Pat Quinn. He's asking, Gary, tell us why you never brought a ton of help to the track, or you never had long-term crew members. One of the fans want to know.
Well, actually, like right now, it's Robert and myself, and then my girlfriend, Vicki Brandt.
I remember Vicki,
and that's plenty.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
But, Gary, you remember back in the day, you'd have guys on race night, they'd come out of the woodwork just to go down in the pits and be with Gary Webb. So Jerry Mackey has now said, I've called a lot of Gary's wins, but his national championship season with, I believe, 15 wins in 17 starts at Dubuque in Mooring's car was really special. Gary gave a new tire to one of his competitors each night.
Yeah, because the car count was so important, and I appreciated their effort of being part of the car count, because NASCAR had a formula, and you had to have, it was a competition index. You had to have so many nights, you had to have so many cars, and so many finishes.
Oh man!
And I was winning plenty, so I was willing to share it with the guys, and they appreciated it.
That's nice.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
Picture number 50. Let's get that up there, Sonny. As long as we're talking about, the mooring operation, the Desert Storm car. Those were beautiful
This is
cars.
one of my favorites right
Look
there.
at that.
Yeah.
Now, Gary, you always haul with an open trailer now, and you've had both. Would you prefer to have a enclosed trailer, or do you like that thing?
No, I like to be able to go to the car wash by myself, which I do all the time down on Rockingham, and I can roll that car back and forth and get it spotless, even have the tires all clean. And Larry would have a family come in and clean that truck after every race, because you could imagine the trailer, heaven forbid, if it starts to rain, everybody wants to come inside with their muddy feet. And Paul Peterson, he's one of my sponsors now. He said he enjoys the fact that I can go down the road and the kids can see a colorful car.
Absolutely.
And now they don't. I even wish the enclosed trailers had their numbers on them so you could know what's in it and who's in it.
Because, Gary, when you're going down the road, I always said this back in the 80s when everybody had open trailers. You're heading down the road, there could have been 200 people that went to the races that night that hadn't planned on it, but the kids see the race car on the trailer. They're like, there goes Gary Webb. Well, heck, let's follow him. We're going to the races. Now you might as well be hauling bread in some of them trailers because you got no writing on the side. And we see them come in at the Speedway every night. And I realize for security purposes, that's why they've got the big haulers now. But let's look up here. Let's see. Dave Crownover is watching from Arizona. He said, hey, I want to know what your most memorable race win was.
Probably the Springfield Mile back in 1980.
Okay.
It was a split show with the USAC stock cars. And I really enjoy the 1 mile tracks. I've raced at Sedalia, and I've raced at Springfield, and I've raced at the one in Indianapolis.
Picture 68.
Big fairgrounds.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Now I guess two of them are gone.
Right.
There you are, Gary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that
Actually,
car,
that's the race at Springfield.
that is Springfield.
What I get a kick out of, that was late in the year, so it was September, but I have all those wind stickers, so that's
Look at that.
fun to look at those.
Yeah.
And I remember, now was that car sponsored by Chevron back then? Because they used to have a car show every year, and when you were still running the blue and yellow, I'd see you down at Chevron with the car on display. But that was beautiful. And then those rear tires, are those Hoosier humpers?
Yeah.
They are.
That probably was 100 inches or more around.
I know, my God, they were so tall.
Wow.
Let's go to picture number 43. I want to read some of these names off. Tell me if you remember any of these. Look at this. Gary Webb picked up the win that day in the AMSCO Transmission Special 25 lap. Feature on the mile, Rick Standridge
Rick
was second.
Standridge's wife, Joyce, still writes in Stock Car Magazine.
Yeah. And then Dan Price. And then we had Don Bolander. Man, that guy was smooth. Dave Melly.
He's from up by Freeport.
Okay.
And Dave Feast was down in Bloomington.
Yep.
All right. And what about Kerry Deem?
He's lives in the same town that the number 3 that's going to be here tomorrow night.
All right.
Yes.
He's one of the big time guys.
Now, Al Johnson, he
he's
was a
from
regular up there.
Chicago.
He was a Santa Fe guy.
Yeah.
I remember seeing him up there.
Jack Tyne was halfway between here and Chicago. I think maybe Streeter.
Yeah.
His son ended up racing, but he enjoyed. It's fun for me to see these guys that were there.
So you look at Tom Wrights, that was a 49 car that was in the big wreck. Jerry Wolin, the Flying Fuzz, he was a cop down in Peoria. Jim Struby, he always had beautiful cars. Al Schill, Keith Remley, that's Freddie Remley's dad.
Yeah.
Dan Dickey from Packwood, Iowa. There's just a lot of these names that...
Dan Dickey, that same day, I got 2 things to show you.
Okay.
Dan Dickey, I was putting my earplugs in back then. We didn't have receivers, so I'm putting earplugs in, and he said, I tried those, but I still had to pee before I race. And that's something that a lot of race car drivers do because of the tension and the nerves. And then that Bob Bennett, number 55, he asked me to drive his car one time down at Macon.
Okay.
Something happened to my car or something. And he had a company that did security systems,
Okay.
and he had all kinds of lights on his dash,
All right.
and he could tell you what to do. He had a remote control, and he could tell you if you
no
had
way.
a lead or you needed to get going or you needed the top. How could
Really?
How could you keep
How
track
could you
of
even
that?
keep track of all that?
Yeah, but I remember that.
Let's see. We got a Chris Whitmer says, talking about calling the racetrack to see if they are racing. I remember Al Frieden sitting outside turn 1 and 2 or back where the water truck was, and he had a phone hooked up out there. Somebody would call, and he would answer racetrack. So, yeah, there was you call some of these promoters, you never know what you're going to get, on the line.
That's just how Al answered the phone, too.
Yeah. Hey, picture number 41. Now, here's a couple of legends, and this is another one. When I seen this picture, these are very special to me, Gary. You look at this.
Ed Sanger and Kurt Hansen.
Yeah. Both fast cars.
Oh, my gosh.
You remember when, did Sanger, I was a little younger. I didn't know that. Did he rent some of those cars out that he built? I know Carl had the 94. He was 95, but was there ever
Well, Kurt drove his number 9. I think
There you go.
he furnished. Now, there was a time when Kurt raced with his father.
Okay.
Because they came to the Tri-State Championship. That was always the last race at Davenport,
All right.
usually on Memorial Day weekend or Labor Day weekend. And he had it was a Ford with a Chevy engine in it, and that was unheard of back then.
Really?
Yeah, he had a
All
big
right.
block Chevy in like a Torino,
Yeah.
and it was like, well, you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
It's like sacrilege.
Hey, let's look at picture number 38. We'll talk about that. One of the other legends wasn't quite as successful as you, Gary, but Ronnie Whedon from
Oh,
Pleasant
no,
Valley,
he
Iowa.
was. Ronnie Whedon, I remember it was raining at Davenport one night. This one might have been 1973 or 74.
Okay.
And I said, Ronnie, this is costing you a lot more than it's costing me. Because he usually won every night.
Yeah.
There was times he would win Davenport on Friday, West Liberty on Saturday, or maybe Peoria on Saturday and East Moline on Sunday, and he just wore us out.
As a casual observer, I'm going to tell you, when I started going to the races, there was the Ronnie Whedon crowd and the Ray Gus Senior crowd, and everybody sat together over at Davenport. So back in the day, people booed Ronnie all the time. The younger kids, they remember how everybody cheered, toward the end of his career before, he got called home when he died. But Gary, you went kind of through that same evolution. When you were winning all the time, everybody was booing. And now, as an announcer, when I call your name, the crowd roars.
Yeah, I've seen the same evolution that Ronnie went through. So
Yeah.
these young guys have something to look forward to.
Yeah, that is funny. Let's take a look at number 37. These cars back then, I like that body style, of course. They're totally different today, but
That is such
just a beautiful
awesome
car.
picture.
And it had Chevron on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, Larry Dennis was the first sponsor I ever had.
Okay.
And he came to me and he had Chevron and he said, I could sponsor guys that are winning, but he said, I want to help you progress.
Okay.
And then he always wanted to have a speed shop, and Lee Parks owned Chevron, and Larry Dennis had his Amco just a couple blocks north up Pershing
remember
from
that.
where
Okay.
Chevron was.
Yeah.
They were down below that bowling alley.
Okay.
And one day Larry bought the business. So
Crazy. Now, Gary, picture number 26. We'll take a look at that. Is that the same car that you run at Springfield, or is that
that's Toland's car there. That's,
It is.
That's a Tri-City buggy car. That may have been at the World 100.
Okay.
Look at how much Eldora's changed since
Right.
then.
Yes. Yep.
Now, would that have been a fifth design? How?
Yeah.
Because I remember, and maybe I'm remembering wrong, Gary, you struggled a little with that fifth design. How?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it just didn't work like the fourth design worked.
Yeah. And that car had a removable windshield, and I got in and out of the windshield. You remember that?
That I remember.
and
Man,
because you
that
couldn't
was-
get through the side window.
Yeah.
I even get a little claustrophobic now. That's a new thing I've experienced in the last year or so. I could imagine, young and crazy, you didn't even think about anything, get
No.
in it and go.
Hey, I'm up at the Super Nationals with Jeff Morris, and back then I had a Mustang, a new Mustang, like a 5.0 or something, and we were going to go over to the store and grab some things, and he said, "Get out of the car and get in the passenger seat." And I said, "What?" He said, "Listen, I'm claustrophobic, and it's got worse as I've got older." I
Jeff
said, "Well,
Morris?
yeah." And I said, "How the hell did you drive that race car?" He goes, "Well, that's different." But he says, I gotta have the wheel and be in control and be driving, or I'm not going." And I said, "Well, I thought he was going to play some joke on me and drive like a crazy man, but no, we just went over and we got some bread and meat and came back."
Robert and I worked on our open car today,
Okay.
and I have a hard time getting in and out of it because you got that darn seat,
Yeah.
and we actually moved the steering shaft today, and then Robert measured. I have 2 inches less of room to get in and out, and you're already tight. I have a hard time getting in and out of that orange car, and this car's 2 inches tighter. So
Yeah.
that was our project today, working on.
No kidding.
And when I put that seat in, you got to have that confinement seat. The first time I got in there, I couldn't get back out.
Oh.
And I started to panic. I told Robert, get back. I mean, when you can't get out,
Yeah.
and that's just in the shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would happen if it was upside down?
Oh,
Right,
man.
yeah, like-
Don't even.
Yeah, like Bishop a couple of weeks ago at Macon.
Yeah, that was just crazy.
Brian Shirley, that's the name
Yes,
I was
Brian
trying
Shirley.
to think
Yeah,
of.
that's
Right.
right. That's right.
What do we got up here? Chad Coyne says Gary's one of the nicest, most stand-up guys I ever met. Pitted by him in 2018 when I won the Deary Brothers Rookie of the Year.
Great.
So that another guy,
That's
Jim
nice.
Dirks, said I
Jim
learned a lot
Dirks.
from Gary. He said one time, "I'll show you how to get faster, but I won't show you how to beat me." So you can't give them all the secrets, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Let's see. Picture number 33, Sonny. That one looks like the same car.
is.
It got a little pixelized. Okay. Let's look at picture number 25. This is from down at Peoria Speedway. And you got a good-looking family there, Gary.
How about that?
Yeah, the track photographer down there at Peoria is the one that I got this picture from, and I hadn't seen it before.
that's a
And
great
so
pic.
I thought, man, Lem Van Lanningham.
That's fun to have. That's Billy and Jenna
Yeah.
and Cindy. That we had a lot of good and Peoria truck wrecking. Billy Neal was such a character. I really like
Now-
going down to Peoria.
Billy was the big guy, Gary.
Right.
Let's look at picture number 44. And you tell me, is this Billy that I'm looking at here in that one? Is
Yeah,
that
that's Billy Neal.
okay?
Yeah.
And we talk about the drivers that are gone now, and Billy Neal, is he still around?
No.
No.
His most fun thing was to take his belt off and hold it up next to a lady, and it would be
Her height. Yeah. Hey,
that's what he
man.
got pleasure from.
Man. Hey, so what race would that have been, Gary, with the
Probably the Illinois State Championship.
man?
I
Look at
won
that
it.
trophy.
I won it twice.
Look
Yeah.
at that trophy.
Yeah, when I took those trophies to the landfill, it wasn't so bad throwing them in to pick up, but when I was taking them out, I would look at the.
Oh,
It was a little harder to throw
I
them
can
out than it
imagine.
was to throw them in.
Wow.
man, I know you're good about giving away a lot of your trophies.
Yeah, I enjoyed giving away a lot of them.
Now I'm looking at picture number 47 here, and this one here.
That'd be
that's up
Super
Super
Nationals.
Nationals. There you go. So we
That'd been the second or third one I won because
Yeah.
the first one I won was with an orange car. And what happened? I went to work down at in Arkansas at GRT,
okay.
and they wouldn't talk to me.
Okay.
I would be working, and it's like I was a total outsider. And then one day I was at lunch with these same guys that wouldn't talk to me,
Yeah.
and they're talking about the Super Nationals.
All right.
And I said, "Oh, you went to Super Nationals?" And they said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, I won that last year. You had that orange car, and that car would pull the front end
Yes.
up so much they could see the oil pan shining on the track,
Yeah.
the aluminum oil pans.
Right.
Then I was okay.
Oh man, how do you like that? And that was a jacket you got when you won the Super Nationals that year. And did you get to keep the flag too, Gary?
I have 3 of them, and I know where the 4th one is.
Okay.
Wow,
I had given it to Grove Auto, and then he had an auction, or auctioned off a lot of the trophies that I had given him and stuff, and I know the lady that bought the flag.
Good. Somebody
It's
good.
nice
got
that you
it.
keep track of it and you know where it is.
Let's see. Slim Roberts says this might mean something to you and Robert. If you got to wear a jacket, it's too cold to go racing.
That's right.
Is that right? Yeah. Is that why you guys weren't out the first couple nights this year? It was too cold?
Yep.
Yeah.
Man. Gary, I remember a day when you guys would go no matter what.
Oh, had to.
Yeah, but not now. Hey, that's something I want to touch on, too. You raced for a living for a lot of years. So how did you feel back then? What kind of pressure did that put on you compared to, you're just out having a good time with your brother now?
I drink a lot of chocolate milk when I get a stomach ache.
Did you really? Oh, man.
The tension gets.
I
I'm
can
telling
remember
you.
coming home with blown engines and thinking, how are you going to get out of this one?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a labor of love, but it was a challenge. But then back then it didn't cost so much to race, and we were racing for the same money we're racing for now.
Yeah.
Yep, that's
Is
true.
that crazy?
That is
So
true.
here we go. Picture number 48. This was, a picture of you picking up a win, but that was when you were driving for Mooring Motorsports. And, such a good-looking young man.
That would have been a Busch All-Star Series.
That
win there.
was?
Yeah.
Okay. Picture number 9. That was another shot of one of the Desert Storm cars. And
Yeah, that
you know
was the
what?
first
That
one.
is- Yeah.
Here's the funny thing, Gary. Now, they were probably out there, but I never seen a sand-colored car like that
right.
with the 56 and the brown outline.
Well, they named it at GRT.
Okay.
The very first car that Larry and I had together,
Yeah.
they just ordered it at GRT, and we went down and picked it up. And they had written, it still had the plastic over the aluminum, and they had written Desert Storm. So
Did they?
Oh,
But
really?
all of
That is
Larry's
so
trucks have a brown theme. That's Larry's favorite color. He
All
he
right.
owns Graphic Arts Express.
Okay.
They have beautiful brown trucks, and all of his disposal trucks were brown. That was his.
That was his colors.
His haulers were brown.
Joe Bonney, hi, Gary. I miss pitting alongside you in Davenport. I need to get down there some night.
I saw him the other night at East Moline. I was
Did
glad
you?
to see him.
All right. Brandon Sherrill said he's got the diecast of the Desert Storm car. And he also said, Gary's my favorite late model driver.
All right.
So that is awesome. A lot of fans out there chiming in now. And then the number 11, we talk about a lot of different paint schemes you had. That was, a different car there. How did we come up with the orange with the white sides? Was that?
Well, it was an orange car, and I must have been out of orange aluminum.
Yeah.
So,
So we had to get her put back together.
yeah.
And that's the color sides we got on it. Okay, we got picture number 12. That was kind of a different look for the Desert Storm car. I like that kind of splash graphic they got in there. That looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Larry had quite a few cars. Typically, I would put 2 together every year for him and 1 for me, and we were good enough back then that the cars would sell.
All right.
And one of them went to Dave Jorgensen. I want to give him a shout out. He's an avid listener of you guys. He called to say he was going to be listening tonight, and I know he's coming back from Denver right now. So
Yeah.
he bought one of the cars.
Jeff Hollowell asks, he's always equated the GRT explosion to your success in the black car. What was so special about the GRT versus the Masterbuilt?
Well,
What really made that thing jump?
I would be telling Masters, Keith and Tater Masters, that, hey, I'm slowing down, and I need to not slow down. So they said, oh, well, Jack Boggs is doing this and that, and I wasn't getting much help out of their thought process. So I went down. I was racing in West Plains, Missouri, and I lined up next to, I remember the number, I lined up to this old beater number 27, and it said GR Team Cars on the back, and I thought, well, I'll just blow right by this guy, and he drove away from me.
Oh, boy.
And I thought, well, there's something to this. So then that winter, I called Joe Garrison, and I said, hey, I need a car. And I'd like to buy a car. And he said, we're 15 cars behind. And he said, I don't have any help.
Yeah.
I said, I'll come down and work for you. And he made me, my car was number 263.
Wow.
The first car I welded together was 248 and 249. I went there as a welder. So he had been in business for 10 years and only had produced 250 cars. And then after that, it just was
exploded.
wildfire. But I went from probably 12 wins, and I remember the numbers. I went from 12 wins, and I could usually bring in $50,000, but I had to pay my bills and keep a race car going out of that. And that first year with the GRT, I won 29 features and $90,000. So the difference, of $40,000
paid for itself
in the bank.
Yeah.
That not so much chocolate milk that year.
Yeah. Hey, the Desert Storm car.
cool.
Now, when you won that national title, that at that time, and it may still stand, that was the biggest point fund payout ever for a dirt track champion. Is that right, Gary?
Well, what helped is I won Dubuque, and that won me the NASCAR championship. But I also got fourth in a different region by winning West Liberty. I won Dubuque and West Liberty championships that year, and they were in two different regions, if you can believe that.
Okay.
So I went across the stage once as a fourth-place guy in that region, and then come back as the national champion. So that was kind of fun, too. And that was 3,000 people down in Orlando, Florida. It was a big
big
Bill
event.
France Jr. and just on and on.
We're there.
Yeah, it was major.
So we're talking about, did you get 200,000 for that?
I got 110 on the track and 160 at the banquet. So I had a $270,000 year, which was unheard of.
Yeah.
Now, Gary, I'm going to ask you a dumb question. So do they give you cash? They give you checks? Just
I
checks?
had so many checks. I haul Featherlight trailers now.
Right.
I got a $10,000 check from Featherlight. I got a $10,000 check from Hoosier.
Yeah.
One check from NASCAR was $68,000. That woke up the banker in Bluegrass when I walked in with that.
Man, there's something to this racing thing.
Yeah, he
Making
said
that
I got
kind
a
of money.
I got a hot rod, but it doesn't pay like yours.
Now, Gary, getting into racing back in the day, your dad pit for somebody back in the day. And who was he helping back
Dale
then?
Aarons. He ran a
Dale
coupe.
Aarons, the number 33.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
Yeah.
Right, man, I remember all those old cars.
Oh, yeah.
And they were just something special. And is that where you and Robert got your love for racing?
Going to the races, yeah.
Going to the races.
Even the old speedway over where the scale is in Rock Island or Milan.
Yeah. Now,
Coal
Pat's
Valley,
race
I
shop,
Yep.
if you leave the runway going over 150, Pat's race shop is there.
That's right.
And we can kind of caddy corner, look out of the back of the property, and we can see where the old
That's
speedway
right.
was
yeah.
at.
Yeah, it's no more than probably 700 yards.
Not
from the
realizing
shop.
how close it was to the Rock River back then.
No.
Right.
You know.
No, and
Right.
you look at pictures today and you go, wow,
Yeah.
that was close. Let's take a look at picture number 46. Another big win. Now, we're up at East Moline Speedway. That was probably in the 80s, Gary.
That was a Zippo chassis. That's Zip Lycander in the middle.
Okay.
And that car was just awesome. I mean, it just, I forget, we won 11 or 12 or 13 nights in a row. No
Holy
wonder they
cow.
were booing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's Larry Dennis, the owner of Amco and Chevron there. And Russ Ewalt, he always owned the 157, the coupe back then that had the woodpecker on the back.
I remember that,
Don't
yeah.
crush my cigar.
Right.
And he used to get so mad at me. He was a perfectionist, and so was I. And I'd be underneath welding on my car, and if I didn't like the weld, I'd be getting a grinder, and he'd say, "Nobody can see that," you know. But he was right there, making a racer out of me.
Let's see. What do we got?
You know what
Matt
I love about
from.
this picture?
Go ahead, Pat.
Check out the crowd.
Oh,
Yeah.
they packed him in.
I
Bobby
remember that. I
Tolan.
remember that.
Yeah.
I was
You-
probably up there in the crowd.
You have to give him credit. he brought big league late model racing
sir.
in the 80s to this area.
Yes, sir.
With the triple 50s, the twin
yeah.
25s, and all that. And they would pack them in up there in the grandstands.
Friday
Man,
and
it
Sunday
was
for the longest
Friday and
time.
Sunday
That's
when they
right.
ran those.
That's right.
And then my brother and Sam and I started going down to Peoria on Saturday nights. And Gary, one night, you and Ray Gus Jr. got into it. You guys kind of bumped. You picked off the win, and you pulled down on the scales. And I seen one of the Neltner guys come running up with a jack handle.
Yeah.
You remember that? And he starts beating on your hood, and you got your leg kind of draped over the car. And I thought, well, I know Gary, and this ain't going to work too long. And such a crowd formed around that whole thing there. And I told Sam, stay back a little bit or we're going to get in this mess. And you got your punches in on that guy. I know that.
It started, Ray and I had an issue on the track, and then he flipped me off. And then all of a sudden it went from stock car racing to demo derby. and then that all went into, because we pitted in the infield. And
We all pitted in the
there were
infield.
so many people. My favorite story at Peoria is when the flagman jumped down and punched a driver.
Now, that's a rough track.
Yeah.
You're getting swung on by the flagman. And then I told people back in the day, they had cops on horses down in Peoria.
Right.
Yeah.
So, it's
I
a
remember
rough
that.
track.
That's
But
right.
again, it was standing room only.
It was standing room
It was
only.
just a carnival.
We went down there in 87. We won like 13 features down there in 87. They hated me. And I remember getting down the pits after the feature, and I had roughed up Chuck Struby to win the feature that night. And I get to the pit area, and all the Strubies, Dan Norton was no fighter. And so they're roughing him up a little bit. But, man, I pulled up that trailer and revved the engine, and they scattered like cockroaches. And when I loaded the car, Dan put a ratchet on the front. We threw the ramps in the side. And, man, we burn out of there. And Dan said, hold it. We forgot the check. And I said, they can mail it to us. I said, I'm not going back for the check.
I'll tell you a quick Robert story. I tangled with the guy, Jim Truman from Peoria, or from Freeport.
Okay.
At Davenport. And we had that old block wall back then, and it ruined his car.
Yeah.
So I raced at Freeport on Sunday. That was Friday night. So Keith Simmons called me, and he said, Gary, they're going to be waiting for you.
Oh,
it's
man.
a clan. I mean, it was a big clan.
Yeah.
And I said, well, we can't back down.
Yeah.
So Robert and I, we go up there with the old ramp truck, and sure as heck, there was 200 people waiting for us. So I get out of the truck to try to sign in, and you couldn't even get near it. And they surrounded me, and Jim Truman, I felt bad because his car got ruined, and it was my fault. So I just kind of covered up while he was hitting me and this and that. And finally I had enough, and then I punched him, and the cop said, you're going to jail.
To you?
Yeah, and Jim Truman's brother said, oh, no, we don't want him in jail. We want him right here. so then I thought, Dubuque's racing.
Yeah.
So we got in the truck. They might have thought we were going to go into pits, but we headed out of town and going across Highway 20 through Galena and stuff.
Yeah.
An inside duel blew out on the truck. Big, loud pop. Well, here Robert had a pistol under the seat, and I didn't know it. He thought that because it.
Thought the gun went off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one of Robert's.
Oh, Robert, man, that's a story.
I love that one.
Scared
Man,
the hell out of your
talk
brother.
about a way to start off the day, too. Holy cow.
Let's see. Scotty Harris Relk says, boy, this show's going by way too fast. See if Robert or Gary can stay a couple of more hours. And I could listen to them guys.
Thank you, Scott.
And Scotty
thank
says,
you,
I'm
Scotty.
so honored to be on the car. Now, Scotty helps so many people out the racetrack. Without
he's
sponsors
awesome.
like that guy, he sponsors our show.
Yeah.
He, sponsors race cars at the track.
Yep.
And then
cars
our
as
little
well,
toy
yeah.
cars we race, he
That's right.
sponsors
He's
them.
a
So
major plus to the sport.
he
Without
really
a doubt,
is.
without
You
a
can't
doubt.
beat the guy.
And a good guy, too.
Now here, picture number 19. There's no love lost in this one here. This one, Gary. Now I'm guessing, and I don't know for a fact, but Ray Gus Jr. is probably driving the 50, but it could have been Dolan.
Yeah, it kind of looks like him in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
But Bobby Tolan actually paid Larry Eckery to bring that car to East Moline to race against
Really?
us.
Yeah.
So that's a promoter. In my mind,
Yeah,
that's what
absolutely.
promotion is.
Right.
Yeah. You can't fault him for that.
No.
And that's why the stands were packed.
Yeah, and I think the roof of that 50 car is hanging in their shop right
Oh,
now.
yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you like that?
I just
Hey,
saw it the other week.
picture number 39. This is our old buddy, Raleigh Frank. Now, my wife, I went out and I bought her a new car at Bob Erickson Chevrolet in 2020.
Yeah.
And Ray Jefferson, who ran the Pace truck all those years for Bob Erickson Chevrolet at Davenport Speedway, there was a brand new red Corvette sitting there.
Raleigh's, yeah.
And he said it was Raleigh's car. I'm like, what in the world is...
He
man,
loves-
I couldn't get in that thing.
He loves that car.
He loves that car. So, and he was a tough competitor for a lot of years.
Oh, we were the best of friends, and one night at West Liberty, I bumped him and he got in the wall.
Yeah.
And I said, Raleigh, I didn't mean to do that. The next week, I got put in the
Bumped.
wall, and he said, Gary, I didn't mean to do
Didn't
that.
mean to do that. Oh,
That's
my
how
God.
friends.
Yeah,
we were
that's
friends.
friendships. Yeah. Let's see. Barney Dirks. Always fun to see Gary race. I have a die cast from Gary's Yankee win with Gary and Cindy's autographs both on it.
All right.
And a Daryl Eberhardt, Good Times in Florida. So a lot of fans continue to chime in, Gary. Hey, let's take a look at a picture here, number 35. This would be up at East Moline Speedway at the Rockland County Fairgrounds. I'm going to preface this, give people a little information. You had 523 career feature wins as of today.
Wow.
Here's what impresses me. You won main events at 65 different tracks across America. Does that mean a lot to you, Gary?
That's my most proud accomplishment.
Yeah, that's crazy.
65 different tracks. That's
I was racing. A lot of times I wouldn't race here on Friday. I would leave. The promoter in Sedalia, Missouri would pay me to come down there and race. So I'd leave 10, 11 in the morning and go down to Sedalia and race. And then usually I'd stay and run an NCRA or an MLRA or a topless series on Saturday night, or Lebanon, Missouri. And then I'd come home and race East Moline on Sunday.
Okay.
And,
wow.
Yeah, I'm going to go over a couple other numbers here. 26 track championships, 3-time Deary Series champion, 4-time Super Nationals champion, and then you won the UMP national title a couple of times.
Twice, yeah.
Twice.
The first 2 years.
So, when you go through all those numbers, plus that NASCAR Dodge Weekly National Championship, what do you got left to accomplish, Gary?
Well, I guess just coming to the racetrack and having fun.
You are having fun. You guys both are.
Yeah.
Now, I asked you years ago, and it was years ago. It might have been in the 80s, early 90s. When are you going to, hang the hat up? And you told me back then, when my age gets to my car number. So you're still running 56. I thought you were going to start bumping your number up. But Gary, 75 years old, and still getting it done.
Still getting it done.
Well, when Robert tells me, hey, I'm tired of this. See, when we started in 1972, he said, I'll help you all I can, but I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. So he must be going to live a very...
He's going to be like my grandma. He's going to live to be 102 or something like that.
I would guess so.
Oh, let's see. Joe Hayes says, Gary stayed and signed autographs for every person that wanted one. We shut the lights out on him several times. Glad to be a small part of his
Joe
career.
was a big part of that. He was Al Frieden's right-hand man.
Yep.
Yeah, and then what do we got? Steve Purvis. Gary was always so nice to me and my family at the track. My dad bought a few cars off of Gary, so that's something good to know too. So do you still get the adrenaline rush, Gary, when you strap in and that green flag comes out?
Yeah, I'd say I get, not like it used to be, the nerves and stuff like that, but a big part of it is like today. Robert and I worked. Robert comes out and we had projects to do. We don't have to even talk to each other. We know what we're doing. We get the work done. We got 2 cars to take care of, so there's plenty of work.
Yeah.
And that's part of the pleasure, is just working on the stuff and being with
your brother.
Yeah, heck yeah.
I get that, man. Sam and I, we still enjoy time together, and it doesn't matter if we're out going fishing. We're still doing something together as brothers. my little niece bought her first home. We were over there till midnight. Boy, that would have been like Saturday night because I had to get up and go to church Sunday. And I thought, well, I just enjoy being around my brother. I really do. Yep. So you are very blessed to have a brother that
I realize
you've been able to share your whole life with.
And that's the environment that I grew up in too. My dad and my uncle were, they're part of a family and carry on the tradition. I still carry on the tradition today. But yeah, they had a relationship very similar to your guys's. So.
Great.
Now, Gary, I want to ask you. We always talk about superstitions people have at the racetrack, and you told me one time if your odometer was on an even number when you got to the racetrack. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it just kind of spooked me, and finally I thought this is silly, so I just put black electrical tape over it, so I didn't.
Did you know this was going on, Robert?
Yeah.
But it's silliness. We still to this day, I have to put the hood. I mean, there's still silly things. I have to put the hood on from the driver's side. And apparently Friday night I didn't.
You put it on the wrong. Yeah, you just put it on the passenger side.
I broke down and don't know why. So.
You say that, Gary, but, we roll the clock back. I remember I'm getting on my race pass, and today there's so much information out there.
There is.
But you went to Davenport on Friday night, and I believe you got 6 at Davenport Friday night. You went down to Burlington Saturday night. You got a 2nd, and then you went to East Moline Sunday, and was it a 3rd you got?
Yeah, that was a fun weekend.
That's a hell of a weekend.
And the race at Burlington was really fun.
Yeah.
This Josh Foster, he's run with us a good number. It's a black and orange number 77. He's a good racer, and I got just about by him, but not quite. And then he got ahead, and I'm thinking, well, he thinks I'm gone. And then I came back by him again, and I bet he thought, where'd he come from? But he ended up, actually, I didn't know the race is over. It's 20 laps, and I wish it was
25,
40,
30, 40. Yeah.
But it was fun.
Yeah. Let's see. Walter Farwell says Missy and Gary pull in at L.A. Speedway in Lamont, Missouri. Do you remember that one?
Well, that's where I won my 500th race.
In Lamont, Missouri.
Yeah, it's a sprint car track,
Okay.
and now I believe it's gone. But that's when I would go down. I'd run Sedalia, and Lamont's not too far from Sedalia. And then I got to thinking one day, I thought, man, I got to be pretty close to 500, and I was at 506.
Yeah.
So I had to back up and see where I won but I went there by myself. A lot of times when I went down there, I would go by myself.
Okay.
So you didn't have
Because you were still working then, Robert.
Yeah, he couldn't leave at 10, 11 on a Friday. And, the L.A. Speedway, that was I call it a sprint car track.
Yeah. Yeah, and Walter, he's still in the military. And I remember one time I was doing a benefit, and he said, hey, do you want this military jet he was going to send to me as something that we could sell and raise money for this benefit we were putting on for somebody who was having health issues. And he had all the pilots down there sign it. And it's just, you meet such great people in racing, and you don't even know you meet them. And when I look at all the names up here on the board right now, Emily Meyer, Gary's one kind guy, definition of true grit. He'll always be a legend to me.
And Emily got a win last.
And she got a win up there at Maquoketa.
That was so fun because the finish was Brian Gotti's sister and her husband, and Emily and her husband.
I mean, go figure.
Yeah,
that blew
at
me
the
away.
Grandpa's Memorial.
Yeah.
That was really fun to see.
Yeah, you couldn't script that any better.
Yeah,
No.
we had, of course, it's on Done Right TV, so if I'm not at the racetrack, I'm watching Flow Racing, Done Right, or whatever. But, I was watching it on TV, and it was just such a wonderful race, and glad to see them, both of them down in Victory Lane. 23. That one's another victory for the number 56. That was down at Peoria Speedway, Gary.
No, that's at Cresco.
Oh, it is Cresco, Iowa, huh?
And that's Tracy Conrad, the owner of Cresco, the founder.
All right.
Or Clements, Tracy Clements. Conrad Clements was the founder of Featherlight. And we had a home fire. I had 2. In the first home fire, when they went through and salvaged everything, I found that picture. And that's Todd Staley, who is the owner of USMTS.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's Todd Staley and myself. That was the car that won the 29 features. I won the night before. I won a Deary Brothers race on a Thursday night in Denison, Iowa, on gasoline and a 390. And then on the road, I switched it to methanol and an open carburetor, and then I won. That's a Busch All-Star Series race the next night.
Wow.
But it was so fun. I took that picture up to Featherlight then, because naturally they knew who I didn't know who Tracy was. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was from Cresco, Iowa. And look at Todd Staley.
Look at that. Hey, so you got intermodal maintenance and rebuild on the quarter panel. What's John Werner doing these days?
I tried to see him. He lives up in, I can't think of the name, small town in northwest Iowa.
Okay.
And I stopped by there one day, but he just enjoying himself.
Just enjoying life.
Yep.
Good for him. He worked hard a lot of years. Number 34. Now, this one here, too, is kind of a special picture. When I look at these kids we got standing there. And, Gary, who are those two kids?
That's Billy and Jenna.
I mean, can you believe that?
Cindy and I had these two kids.
Right.
And see, that was the deal. When Billy was 18, I was going to be 56 years old. So Billy his name's Gary.
Yeah.
But I don't call him Gary. He's not Junior, he's Gary William. And he said, Dad, I've watched you work too hard for too little. He said, I'm going to go to college. I don't want to drive no race car.
Smart
kid.
Wow.
Yeah, and now he lives out in New York City, and he's married with a son of his own and just doing fine. And then Jenna, she's got a 13-year-old daughter, which amazes me that her daughter's 13 already, and they live in Denver. So my family is a ways from me. But
yeah. Hey, Scott McGonigal wants to know, who is Gary's racing hero?
Well, probably Dean Montgomery.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
that'd be a good one.
From when I was a kid, we'd go stand behind old Bob Erickson and be standing there with a cigar looking at him through the fence, keeping an eye on him. And, Dean Montgomery won a lot of races.
Won a lot of races, man. He had beautiful race cars. And, and now here, we've got all these histories, and it's just like a puzzle you're putting together. Of course, we've got Bart Montgomery flag in Davenport.
Sure.
Right.
So to me, all those things are special. It's not just a flagman up there at Davenport. To me, I watched his dad race, and I'm just like, hey, when this moment's over, I'm going to thank God, because my life has been everything I wanted it to be, and I beat so many great people out there.
And his grandson got fourth the other night, carrying on the family number.
That's right. Yeah.
And what have we got? Marquette Sr. Hello, Gary and Shane. Brody Wallace says Gary's definitely someone us young guys look up to.
Yeah.
And, you say young guys, the Williams kid running late model now. Now, I see him on the track, when I'm calling the race. But I seen him down in Tech. He was top 5 in the feature last week. And when he took that helmet off, how old is that kid? Is he like 13 or 15? Or?
I told somebody today he must be 14. When they came the first night with the late model, I always walk over and welcome new cars. And his dad introduced me to him, and I knew Kevin since he was his age or younger. And very impressive. He passed me. Yeah. Like, there he went.
There you go.
And then actually I was going backwards, but I'm watching the race, and I see he's ahead of Andy.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is real. And then Andy was able to get back by him. It showed his veteran abilities.
Right.
Now, the other one that got me pulling up on Victory Lane a couple of weeks ago was Harrison Horn. So I seen Horn Automotive on the quarter panel, and I thought, okay, we remember Fred Horn.
Right.
It's his grandson.
It's his grandson.
Because if you look, they're from Auburn, Indiana.
Yeah.
And that's where CJ and Chris are from. I go through Auburn. Auburn is just north of Fort Wayne on I-69.
Right. Okay.
I lost a pulley on my truck one time, and I had to go to Auburn. It's a fairly good, it's about the size of Bettendorf if Davenport wasn't hooked to Bettendorf.
Yeah.
But that's where they come from to race all the time. I see he did return last weekend.
Yeah.
CJ.
13 years old the kid was.
Yeah. Running a
Harrison
four-cylinder.
running a four-cylinder.
Yeah.
He got out of that car, and he was so nervous. He'd won. It was his first win. And he still had his helmet on, and he walked around, and he stood next to me. And so I didn't have the mic on. I said, hey, you can take your helmet off, young man. He pulled that thing off. And I said, my gosh, how old are you? And he said, well, I'm in 7th grade. I'm 13. I thought, okay. We didn't race in 7th grade when I was in school.
Right. That's right.
But, you know, good for him, and he did a heck of a job. Let's see. Bob Lucier says, thanks for the great memories, Gary. Mitch Swinton, I wish Gary would consider bringing his car down to the Little Racer Club Port some Friday night. So right where they pay for their tickets and they go in,
right inside.
they'll have a race car sitting there, and you'll sign autographs, and all the kids can look at it.
At the fairgrounds?
At the fairgrounds, at the front gate. Last week they had Joe Beal, the real deal. Right. He was up there. But Mitch is saying he'd like to have you there. And then Chris Whitmer didn't see Jay race West Liberty last year. He did. And when I seen Fred Horn come down and Chris and CJ, they're all in the victory picture. I had to get a pick too, because now Fred bought the number 5 car that won Davenport, Rodney Combs' car, and he left it the same. He just put an 01 on it. So, Gary, you know.
Those were Howe cars.
Those were Howe cars. That's what I thought they were. And that thing was fast. Man, that was fast.
In fact, what Rodney Combs did, he just ran a bead of weld around the roll cage.
Okay.
To freak people out. Is there something they did there?
Yeah.
You know, if you're winning races and it was the down bar, and all they did was run a nice weld around there to made it look like it had been cut and changed.
Yeah, right.
So they were having fun.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what.
Get everybody scratching their heads.
They sure did. We got another, let's see, picture 42 here. We're going to put that up.
Gary,
that one we're looking at, look at this. Hawkeye Raceway Memories is an old vintage page. That's got, Gary. 72-year-old Hall of Famer Gary Webb puts on a show for that was your 520th victory in the Erickson Chevrolet IMCA late models at East Moline Speedway. Webb led every lap, survived several cautions, and outran point leader Andy Nesworski. So look at that pick. And does it still feel as good to you when you win a feature? I mean, still great to be down there in Victory Lane.
The most fun is the white flag. You think, one more time.
One more time. And then, man, when you finally cross, because a lot of things can happen in that one lap.
That's right.
But, you know, you kind of feel when you run across that checkered flag, you just want to explode. You just got all this energy that now you can finally, you know, relax.
There's a few times I've hooped out loud in a race car.
All right.
It's just you and that race car.
That's right.
That's right. So, hey, there he is. Nothing that you don't have to worry about saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing. Let's look at picture number 49. That one here. Now, was this the Masterbuilt car? Because it's blue with the checkerboard roof. Yeah. Remember the old Masterbuilt you had for a long time? Is that what that was, Gary?
That would have to be it. You know, yeah, it's got the checkered top.
Checkered top.
Yeah.
And you kept that for a long time.
Yeah.
And
just scrapped it this spring.
You did?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gary Meyer was able to find a guy that wanted to part it out because it was complete. I mean, if I'd have put a crate engine in it, I could have raced it that day. But
why did you like that car so much? I mean, to make you hang on to it?
Well, I liked having it in case I ever needed to get even with somebody.
All right,
man. That's the best answer of the night right there.
Man. Hey, Jeff Wells up there, he's asking, will you ever put the car back to 56 instead of the W?
I think about it.
Okay.
But, you know, we have Andy Eckery.
Right.
Travis Denning.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just kind of, and I see now it's taken forever, but I see on my race pass,
right,
more letters are coming into play.
They are.
I've seen people that have their initials.
Now it's 56D, or Logan Velos being 43LV.
Right.
So you're seeing a lot more of that. Let's put up picture number 63. So this one, Gary, was my favorite car, favorite paint scheme of all time.
It's
that
iconic.
Right there. It was just very iconic. It's like, you know, the number one rocket car. You've seen so many drivers in that over the years. But this is Gary Webb. When I seen that blue and yellow rolling down the racetrack, that is a rocket. Okay.
In '98, even after all the success that I had with GRT,
Yeah.
it got to be where there was 24 cars, there would be 18 or 20 GRTs.
Yeah.
And I said, well, they can all go around the track and they're all going to do the same thing. You got to have something that's going to do something a little different. So I did go, and it didn't set very well with Joe Garrison, the owner of GRT.
Yeah.
But I put one together for myself. I always put the cars together in the winter. I put one together for Larry and one for myself. And then we took him out with his big hauler. Rocket is up on a hill, and it goes down to this highway. And Mark Richards' father had a racetrack there, I-79 Speedway.
All right.
So we went down there to test, and I blew the engine in both cars. Because I had put too small of a vent. I put both cars together, and they were dry sump, and I'd put too small of a vent on the oil tank.
Yeah.
And it made air get in the oil and spun the bearings.
Oh. And what kind of motors were you running back then, Gary?
Larry had Clement. I might have, well, I had Grove Auto in those cars, and Larry had Clement's engines.
Okay. Wow. So if you ever went back to 56, the blue and yellow would be a color to go to, because
maybe the last year.
Maybe the last year.
I won't have to announce a retirement.
When Robert's 102, we'll have a blue and yellow car, and that will be nice. Well, let's look at picture number 54. We haven't looked at that yet. Just want to show off a few more of these here. That one again. Now look at the stands up at East Moline. That thing was packed.
Yep.
And Doug Hack looks so young.
Yeah.
I don't know if Doug's 71, 72, but, big win that night. And
that's Julie Murfield, Jeff Murfield's wife.
it is.
Yeah.
All right, man. I like
They're
that.
both gone now, but that's part of the
That's part of it.
passing of ways, yeah.
And before we get out of here, I want to talk about picture number 62. We'll look at that. That would be when you were driving for Richie Cummer.
Boy, yeah.
That's one of the old.
There's Richie Cummer right there.
That is him. Oh, my gosh. I didn't even pay any attention to that. Man. So that you had beautiful race cars.
That was a weapon chassis that Richie built himself.
And you had success with those cars, Gary.
A lot.
Yeah.
That car, I ran a 125 spring in the right rear, and Richie was always against that. And he would slide a 175 in, and I'd come in.
You could tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Oh, that'd make me mad.
But that car won a lot of races. Well, my point is, I could tell driving the difference between a 125 right rear spring, which you couldn't run today for love nor money.
Right. But back then.
And we had those old Reuter bars.
Yeah.
I like those.
Picture number 9. I think that might be another. That is Richie. That is funny.
I don't know where that wouldn't be East Moline.
It's almost like
we had that picture.
Okay, we already had that one. So we'll go back to that number 62 then. And in fact, let's go to picture number 1.
Yeah,
we haven't looked at that car yet. Number 1. We'll pop.
Well, let's try to figure out where that was at. Oh, that's different too. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I love this, man. That yellow popped.
Yeah.
You could see that car on the racetrack.
I went and ran that with the World of Outlaws. Billy was home for the summer it had aluminum engine in it.
Yeah.
And we went and ran with the World of Outlaws. Even went into Canada, and the head tech man, he said, "I really like that car. I'll always remember that."
Yeah.
And he sees a lot of nice cars.
Sees a lot of cars. Yeah. But that thing just pops, boy.
It does.
That yellow just looks so good. When I seen that picture, I just thought, man, this is a good one. I got to have that. So with that being said, Gary, we went over. I knew we'd go over.
Oh, my gosh.
But it's already
Time
been
flies.
over an hour. In fact, I'm going to look at the clock up there. It's been an hour and about 16 minutes.
We're going to get you some overtime.
Yeah, we're going to have to do that. I'm going to have to talk to Kelly. Hey, so in closing, Robert, anything you want to say to anybody out there, or any statement you want to make about how you've enjoyed the racing over the years? You're retired now?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you got a little more time for racing now?
Yeah.
How many more years do you want to go? Just keep going?
I guess till I die.
Just till you die. Okay, that's a good one. Well, man, thanks for coming on the show. It meant a lot to me. And, I was so happy that, it was going to be the both of you. Because, I see you together at the racetrack all the time. And, and it just wouldn't be right to have Gary on here and not have you on.
That's right.
That's right.
I wouldn't be here without him.
Yeah, that's right. Gary, we're ready to wrap this thing up. We've had a lot of people watching the show. I'll give you some numbers later on this week, but anything you want to say to the fans that are out there listening?
No, this has been fun for everybody, and we've lost a lot of race fans through the years, but we remember them all, and we appreciate the ones that are still here.
Yeah, we sure do. Pat?
One thing that I do want to touch on, we have a fantastic photographer at Davenport every Friday night, Brad at Full Throttle Photography.
Yeah.
Actually has a new program this year called the Hard Charger Award. We're actually looking, it's a $50 bonus for the person that passes the most cars. We're looking for a sponsor for any time upcoming in the upcoming weeks. Come check Brad out and look him up at Davenport. It's a great program, and we like having people that support what we do. Also, I want to remind the people that watch, support the people that support what we do. Support the people that supported Gary over all of these years. And thank you, Mr. Webb, both of the Mr. Webbs for coming. It's a pleasure and an honor.
Hey, Full Throttle Photography, they do have their own page on Facebook.
Yes,
so if you're on Facebook, get on there. You can send
True
Brad
artist.
a message,
Yeah.
and he does a wonderful job.
He takes
with a
some
lot of-
beautiful pictures.
He does
Really
take
does.
beautiful
He's a
pictures,
true
Gary.
artist.
He does.
So that being said, thanks for tuning in. God bless all you great race fans. We hope to see you tomorrow night over at Davenport Speedway, and we're going to have some great cars rolling in. And Gary, you'll be over there racing tomorrow night?
Yeah.
All right, man, I'm looking forward to it. So that being said, this is Shane Davis saying thanks for tuning in, and I'll be seeing you around the track. Good night.